Today, I'm talking about mustache players, and I've got 5 prospects and 5 injured players that you're going to want on your team, including names like Bubba Chandler, Max Clark, Kyle Bradish, and Kerry Carpenter. Those names and more on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino, riding solo today, as you can see if you're watching on YouTube. And if you are watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It's going to subscribe you to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. Or if you're listening on the audio side of things, please make sure you're subscribed. And if you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you do that for us. And lastly, but what's most important to Matt and I and you guys, and what's going to put you over the top in your fantasy baseball league, joining Matt and I on the Insider's Track. On the Insider's Track, you know, we got some prospects today, and when they get called up, you're going to get a text message alert right to your phone. You're not getting that anywhere else in the industry. And when we do our waiver wire player episodes, we're going to rank those guys for you, letting you know how you should prioritize them, when you're going to pick them up, and just offering so much more than we can in these 30-minute episodes. So if you are interested in joining us on the Insider's Track, the link is in the bio wherever you're listening, watching, and it's available on any of our social media platforms. And all right, guys, let's get into it. Like I said, mustache players. You know, if you're familiar with the podcast, you know what we do around here. But if you're not, we got 5 prospects and 5 injured players that we are going to let you know, hey, listen, you need to stash these guys, watch list them, or just be prepared for, you know, when the prospects get their call or when the injured guys are returning, right? And let's do our normal check-in here, our Bubba Chandler check-in. You know, I'll be honest, I think he's probably going to be the next big name prospect getting the call. Should be honestly getting really close, right around the corner. Bubba Chandler has been picking it back up. His last start on July 18th was not so bad. Actually was pretty bad. I'm sorry. I was looking at the one before that. So Chandler actually got rocked his last time out, gave up 5 earned runs, 3.2 innings, didn't look so hot. But the timeout before that, which was the start I was looking at, that was on July 10th. He went 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, no earned runs, only 2 walks. Looked really good in that one, but we did see that negative regression blow up start again. You know, he has had a couple of those. Bubba Chandler, once again, is who we're talking about here. Pittsburgh Pirates starting pitcher prospect. And even if we look back, you know, June 22nd, he gave up 6 earned runs, but he did sandwich 3 really good, you know, the most recent blow up and the blow up before that. But even on the whole, Bubba Chandler's having still a pretty strong season. 19 starts AAA this year, down in the minors for Bubba Chandler. 3.27 ERA, and that's through 77 innings with 97 strikeouts. Batters are hitting .229 against him. But the whip has been the problem, man. It's a 1.36 whip, giving up a few too many walks and hits. You know, not too many home runs, only 5 homers through 77 innings, which isn't too bad, but 66 hits and 39 walks. Just not getting the job done. He only had 41 walks last year through 119 innings. Kind of shows you where, you know, he's taking a little bit of a step back. But honestly, Bubba Chandler right now is the number 3 prospect in all of baseball. Roman Anthony and Chase Burns are, you know, on their way, if not have already graduated on prospect status at this point in time. So it just really leaves Bubba Chandler down there, man. And, you know, he's going to be good when he gets the call. So with Bubba Chandler, you know, I'm stashing now just because, like I said, I think he's the next big name starting pitching prospect that's going to get the call. We got Chase Burns already. So, you know, like I said, Bubba Chandler's next. And listen, he's not Paul Skeens, you know, obviously pitches for the same teams as Skeens, those Pittsburgh Pirates, but is a dude, you know, that has good stuff. You know, has a really strong fastball, you know, that he throws really hard, mixes in a nice slider too. It's really just the control. Like I said, that fastball sits around 97, you know, gets up to 99 at times. You know, the secondary slider is nice. It's 86, 87, has a changeup, throws in a nice little curve every once in a while. It's really just been a control problem for Bubba Chandler this year. So listen, I'm still stashing, even though it hasn't been pretty. Last start was ugly, but there is promise here. So once he gets the call, man, some guys can just turn it on, and that might be the case here with Bubba Chandler, especially when he's up there with Paul Skeens, who's going to really take him under his wing, and they're going to get to that next level together. At least that's what we're hoping for. So Bubba Chandler, I don't want to say a mustache, but if I'm on a 1 to 10. Kind of like I want to say a 6 for Bubba Chandler on the we'll call it the stashometer, right? Yeah, so probably about a 6 for Chandler, and especially if you're hurting for starting pitching and you're really like when NL only or a deep league where 15, where Bubba Chandler's still available, probably move that up to about a 7.5. But all right, let's keep things pushing here. Let's move on to our next prospect. It is Max Clark, outfielder for those Detroit Tigers. And he's moved up a bit on this list too. What did I say? Chandler's 3, so 4, 5, 6, 7. Max Chandler's the 8th prospect in baseball right now. And he's still young, still 20 years old, but he's up in Double-A. He's up in Double-A. He's, 6 games up there, struggling a little bit, hitting 217 so far. But you know what? I like to see that, he's already got a steal. He's already hit 2 homers up there. The batting average is going to come, right? The batting average is going to come. Let's talk about what he was doing in high A before, Max Clark got moved up to Double-A. He was hitting 285 in 68 games, and he had 7 homers, 47 RBIs, 49 runs, 12 steals. He had 65 walks to 56 strikeouts, man. Max Clark was killing it in high A. I don't think Max Clark gets the call this year, especially with Kevin McGonigal, his, also fellow minor leaguer for the Detroit Tigers, being down there, and McGonigal's up to the number 4 prospect in all of baseball. So I don't think Clark gets the call before McGonigal, even though they play different positions, so that might come into effect. But Clark is still a little bit wet behind the ears. He's still, figuring things out. Like I said, still struggling a little bit in Double-A. But Clark is also really fast on, the 20 to 80 prospect grade scale. He is at a 70 speed grading. So I like that for him. He showed off the wheels last year across 2 levels and 170 games. He stole 29 bags. So there's a lot of speed here. There's potential with Pop. He's 6 foot, 205. Nice big build on him. So I think he can grow into a little bit of power too. Last year was only 9 home runs in 107 games. Like I said, it's not big power, but could he get to 15 homers and, a 40 steal kind of profile? For sure. Batting average, his hit tool is, I want to say he could hit 270-ish, maybe at his high end in his career, but would be shocked if Max Clark was more of a 255, 265 kind of dude. But he's somebody you want to keep on your watch list, because if for some reason he does get the call this year, we're definitely going to want to add him. But even if you're still listening at this point in the year, if you're tuned in and you don't know who Max Clark is, now. He was a very high-end draft pick. He was actually taken, I don't want to say strong, he's taken 3rd overall in 2023 in the 1st round by these Detroit Tigers. And the Detroit Tigers have been working wonders with their young guys. Think of the Riley Greens, the Kerry Carpenters. I almost said Austin Meadows. I can't even think of his brother at the moment. Jeez, I'm really Parker Meadows. There we go. I got it. Parker Meadows. They do pretty good with the hitting prospects over there. Not to mention the pitching the pitching prospects, Tarek Skubal and all them boys over there. So Detroit's pretty good with the young guys, and they're playing great baseball right now. Max Clark is just a name. Not stashing him at the moment. Maybe in your deep leagues, maybe in your dynasty leagues, the leagues where you keep over half your roster or more. Leagues like that, young guys like Max Clark are valuable. At least the leagues that I dynasty leagues and big keeper leagues that I play in, a guy like Max Clark is valuable. So definitely just somebody you want to keep your eye on. Before we move on and we get to our next few prospects like Walter Jenkins, Jet Williams, those names and more coming up next. And all right, guys, I want to talk to you about my friends over at FanDuel. And, summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. Come on, you're already following the action. Why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. Come on, guys. We don't want to get sunburned at the beach. We want to be on FanDuel getting some bets in and winning some money, right? I mean, personally, I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups. Plus, the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm a part of the action. And if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started now. And all right, guys, before we keep things pushing, just want to mention the Insider Track one more time because, listen, guys, this is the time of year where it's going to really help you win your fantasy baseball league. Listen, we got guys that, last year, was the first year we were doing the Insiders Track. We got a bunch of testaments of I think we had over 20, 25 people in there state that we helped them win their league. And it's just a fun time to talk baseball. If you don't, usually in your home leagues, you play with your friends, right? You can't shoot the trade off of them. You don't want them to know what you're going on. So join Matt and I in the Insiders Track, talk trades, get instant prospect call-up and notifications through text messaging alerts. And even when we do our waiver wire episodes, we're going to rank those guys for you. And come on, you're not getting this kind of service anywhere else in the industry. So join us on the Insiders Track, where the link is in our bio where you're listening, watching, and is available on any of our social media platforms. And all right, let's get back into it, guys. And Matt's not even here today. And I got to keep it pushing. Let's talk about Walker Jenkins, right? Walker Jenkins is honestly one of my favorite prospects. He's an outfield prospect, and he plays for those Minnesota Twins. And he's a big boy, 6'3", 210, has a lot of pop, can hit for a little bit of batting average. Just love this kid, honestly. So far, he's actually played across 3 levels this year. Played 1 game in rookie ball, then went to, A ball. And he's currently in Double-A, where he's actually thriving. Since he's been so good across all 3 levels, we'll just do the combined stats, right? Walker Jenkins has played 35 games this year, 288 batting average, 26 runs, 5 doubles, a triple, 3 homers, 15 RBIs. He even has 26 walks to 27 strikeouts, and he's chipped in 9 steals for good measure. Now, the thing is, Walker Jenkins himself, it doesn't measure out great on the speed. When it comes to the prospect scale, he's a 55 out of 80, and that's between 20 and 80. Don't love that. So, I mean, he's at least willing to, go out there and steal. Look, Paul Goldschmidt had some great years, as a bigger dude who, went out there and stole some bags. So I can see Jenkins doing it, but I really want to see this kid grow into the power. We haven't seen a lot of it yet. 60 grade power, so a little bit above average there, and I really, really think he's just going to tap into it and take it to the next level at some point. Another guy, not sure if we see him this year. Even though he has been dominating Double-A, 26 games for Jenkins, and Double-A, 293 batting average, 2 of the 3 homers, 19 walks, 21 strikeouts, 7 steals for the big Walker Jenkins. Once again, he's an outfield prospect for those Minnesota Twins. If you didn't catch that earlier. Love the kid. Like I said, might not see him this year, but it's pretty cool to see him get it all the way up to Double-A. Just another guy, a name you want to keep on your watch list. You keep your dynasty leagues. I honestly go out there and buy before this kid breaks out. I know he's having a really good season, and he was another high draft pick back in 2023. Jenkins was the 5th pick right behind Max Clark. Well, one pick between them, but, pretty close enough. So I honestly want to acquire Jenkins in those dynasty leagues. But for your redrafts, just throw him on the watch list. Him and Max Clark need to be on your watch list just to see if they potentially can get the call this year and make an impact for us fantasy baseball players. But let's keep things moving, right? Let's try and get these prospects out of the way here. Let's talk about Jet Williams of the New York Mets. Honestly, been a pretty big riser over the past couple of years in the prospect community, and then even on MLB.com, he's up to the 41st prospect in all of baseball. But honestly, a few guys have gotten called up that are already on this list that have, if not lost prospect eligibility already, they're going to lose it soon enough. So I'd say Jet Williams is probably closer to like the 35th prospect in all of baseball at this point in time, according to MLB.com. Not a big dude. He's a scrappy player, man. He's 5'7", 175, 21 years old. Jet Williams is up in Double-A this year. Took a step backwards last year, but that was due to injury and other stuff, because before that, Jet Williams had a pretty good year. So we're talking about this year once again. 2025, Jet Williams in Double-A, 81 games played, 294 batting average, 59 runs, 27 doubles, 5 triples, 8 homers, 31 RBIs. Walk to strikeout ratio isn't atrocious, but could use a little bit of work. 51 walks, 78 strikeouts, and 28 steals. Man, nice little profile here for Jett Williams. Like I said, scrappy player, has a lot of speed, above average speed. The hit tool, I'm not buying the 294 batting average, but could he hit 270, 275 with a bunch of speed, give you 10-ish home runs? And in this Mets lineup, if he gets called up, man, he could be impactful because that's a good lineup to play. Could give you some decent counting stats depending on where he is in this lineup. I'd like to see him hit like 9th. Be a really good spot for a guy like Jett Williams if he gets the call. Now, I'd say Williams is probably a little bit closer than, a guy like a Jenkins or a Clark, because honestly, Jett Williams is the Mets' #1 prospect, I believe, if I'm looking at this the right way, according to MLB.com here. Yeah, he is right ahead of Jonah Tong, one of my boys. If you guys listen to the podcast, I love me some Jonah Tong. But we're talking about Jett Williams. Like I said, speedster, can chip in a homer here and there. Batting average is going to kill you and could help you in runs depending on where he hits in the Mets lineup if he does get the call. Let's keep things moving. Let's talk about this last prospect. It is Sal Stewart of the Cincinnati Reds. And honestly, the Reds have been good with their prospects. Just feel like, they have a bunch of them down in the minors still, and a few that have been called up over the last few years. Elly De La Cruz, Noel V. Marte, Chase Burns come to mind when I'm thinking about this team. And listen, Sal Stewart, we talked about him not too long ago. I want to say like a month or so ago. And, he's just been tearing up still since then. He is up in AA at the moment, and I want to say he's the 48th prospect according to MLB.com. But once again, a few guys have been taken out. I want to say it's probably closer to 40. At the moment, if we take out all the guys that have been called up or lost eligibility at the moment. 303 batting average for Sal Stewart this year in the minors, 83 games played. He has 53 runs, 19 doubles, 11 bombs, 45 RBIs. 27 walks to 53 strikeouts. I don't love it, but he also has 14 steals. So a nice little power speed threat here. The batting average is, honestly, I want to say pretty legit. He's maintained a solid batting average through all 4 years he's been in the minors. And actually, I lied to you guys. He's actually up in AAA this year. He's out 3 games in AAA so far. Small sample size, so I'm not going to read those numbers off. But even in AA, 306 batting average through 80 games. Love it. The kid's going to be pretty good. I think he's like a 2020 kind of guy. Maybe in Cincinnati, the power plays up a little bit. Great American Small Park. Maybe he winds up being like a 25, 27 homer guy with like, maybe 20, 15-ish steals. I think the batting average could be good. 270, 280 kind of guy. And honestly, the fact that he's up in AAA, maybe he gets a cup of coffee, Sal Stewart, towards the end of the season. So in your NL onlys and stuff like that, let's see what the eligibility is on Yahoo. I know Sal Stewart plays a little second and a little third. Does he have both on Yahoo? Yes, he does. So Sal Stewart has second and third eligibility on Yahoo. I know the third base injuries have been piling up. Austin Riley, and then even Brandon Lau at second. It's been tough. It's been tough at those couple of positions this year. So Sal Stewart, if he does get the call, he's interesting. Another guy that, besides maybe your NL onlys, your deep 15s, I'm not stashing Sal Stewart at the moment, but it's just another guy. You want to keep him on your watch list. And that's kind of where I'm at with Stewart. But guys, now, well, not right this second, but soon enough, we're going to get into these injured players. I got Kyle Bradish, I got Kerry Carpenter, I got Luis Gil, and more coming up next. And all right, guys, I want to talk to you about my friends over at OpenPhone. Come on. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Come on, I'm not leaving money on the table. We're not those kind of guys, right? Or gals, or, whoever may be listening to this podcast. We're not those kind of human beings. We'll leave it at that. Think about the last time you had a service emergency like a burst pipe. If the first plumber didn't answer, did you wait? Nope. You called the next one. That's why having a reliable business line is so important, and that's why you need OpenPhone. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or computer. Did you juggle 2 phones just to keep business and personal calls separate? OpenPhone solved that instantly. Your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox. So no more who's handling this, and the AI agent handles all after hour calls. Answers common questions and captures leads so you never miss a customer again. OpenPhone is offering Locked On Fantasy Baseball listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. That's OpenPhone.com/LockedOnMLB. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. And all right, guys, come on. Let's move into the second half of this episode and let's talk about Kyle Bradish. So listen, the last time we saw Kyle Bradish, he was doing his thing and he has officially started his rehab assignment. Or if not, I think he's right on the verge. Yeah, he's going to report to High A on Thursday to make his first rehab start. Got Tommy John last June. It wasn't the full-blown Tommy John. It was the internal brace, which is a little bit less stressful, takes a little bit less time to come back from. Like I said, the 2024 campaign for Bradish was looking real good. 2.75 ERA, 107 whip, and he had 53 strikeouts and only 15 walks through 39 1/3 innings. That was over 8 starts. He's 28 years old, and he's 10% owned on Yahoo. Haven't really talked about Bradish too much this year. I like him. He's got good stuff, nice profile. Baltimore's not a bad place to pitch. Not a great place, but not a bad place to pitch. The team themselves been a little bit disappointing this year, so I don't think the wins are going to be abundant. But listen, at this point, we've talked about so many guys to stash, the Biebers, the guys like that, Yuri Perez, who's back already. Kyle Bradish could be a difference maker, so I honestly think you should go out there and add him. He's a great stash. I don't know if he repeats the sub-3 ERA and the monster strikeout totals, but there's a world where Bradish is a 3.35 ERA guy with over a K per 9, and he has pretty good control. But although, Matt and I always like to say with injury, especially to pitchers, the last thing that come back is the control. Some of them come back, control comes back for some pitchers faster than others. But we'll see. We'll see what it looks like for Bradish. Has always been a decent strikeout guy, has always been good at preventing runs. The whip has always been pretty serviceable. So I like him. And I'll say it to you guys like this: through 61 career starts, and that's a really, really bad 2022 is included in this. Bradish is a 3.56 ERA guy. That's over 325 innings. He has 332 strikeouts over that time, and he has a career 117 whip. So I think that could be about the bar that I'm setting for Bradish: a 3.5 ERA, a 115 whip, around that K per 9. It could, honestly, if he comes out like the way he did in 2024, it could be over. So Kyle Bradish is a great stash at the moment. Like I said, 10% owned on Yahoo, and Kyle Bradish is, of course, a starting pitcher for those Baltimore Orioles. Let's move on to our next guy. Kerry Carpenter, man. I just stay on the field, man. I love Kerry Carpenter, man. When he's out there playing, he's a pretty good baseball player. He's been injured a bunch in his career. Through 265 at bats this season, Carpenter had 40 runs, 16 bombs, 32 RBIs, a steal, and was hitting 257. I like him. There's power. He's on one of the best teams in baseball, so the counting stats should continue to be pretty solid. He was running drills at full speed on Monday at Comerica Park. If everything looks well, it looks like he's going to be sent out to AAA sometime later this week. So honestly, maybe early next week, end of next week, we could have Kerry Carpenter back. And listen, the power's been good for him. Runs have been okay. RBIs, but I like me some Kerry Carpenter. He's 54% owned on outfield. On Yahoo. He is an outfielder, and honestly, he was getting hot right before we got hurt. He was sitting 3rd in this lineup, so I think the RBIs have potential to be better. He homered on June 24th with 2 RBIs. On June 28th, he went 2 for 4 with a homer. On June 29th, he went 2 for 3 with another homer and 2 RBIs. And then right after that, Carpenter got hurt. So, and then I believe he had a 3 home run game at some point this season. Somebody fact checked me on that. Hamstring issues, injuries could be a little bit trickier than others. So I do expect to see him back. A good thing he's not really a big steals guy, so we're not counting on him for that, but definitely some pop in this bat. If you need homers, you need runs, RBIs, batting average, I'm not holding Kerry Carpenter to a great batting average, but could he hit 270 the rest of the way? Yeah, wouldn't be shocked at it. So Kerry Carpenter, a nice little ad if you need outfield help, stash him on the IL. Let's move on to this next guy who's actually interesting. It is Shelby Miller of those Arizona Diamondbacks, right? And we thought Shelby Miller was headed for Tommy John, and now it's kind of not looking that way. He was dropped in a bunch of leagues. Shelby Miller is down to 29% owned on Yahoo. He's going to face hitters today as I'm recording in a live batting practice. He's making lightning quick recovery from the forearm strain. And it really looks like that they're going to get Miller back at some point, and that means we can get him back on our fantasy teams. Like I said, Miller is having a great year, 10 saves, 37 appearances, even has 3 wins, a 1.98 ERA, an 0.96 WHIP, 36 innings pitched, 40 strikeouts. Sometimes these, old starters turned closers work out. Look at, I think of like Ian Kennedy, even AJ Puck, who was on this team. Guys like that, John Schmaltz is a notorious one. So I think I like me some Shelby Miller. Good career. He's been pretty solid with Arizona, closing 10 saves already, as I mentioned. Numbers look great for him. If you need some closing help, especially your NL-only leagues, your 15s, if he was dropped in leagues like that, I'd add him instantly if you need some closing help, because he could come back and just continue to be dynamite for this Diamondbacks team that has been pretty solid this year. Let's move into a Yankee here. A little excited to sneak a Yankee on the episode. If you guys didn't know, I'm a Yankee fan, and if you did, I'm probably excited to talk about Luis Gil. And if you don't know Luis Gil, that last name, if you're not watching on YouTube, is spelled Gil, but is pronounced Heel. So Luis Gil, New York Yankees starting pitcher, as I already said, 45% owned on Yahoo. He had a great year last year, but struggled to the finish line. So I kind of want to see, how this minor league rehab assignment, looks. He allowed 2 runs in his last start, over 3 1/3. That was on Friday. Could be back, I want to say early August, maybe mid-August, depending. Let's kind of see how this whole rehab assignment has been for Gil. I feel like, if I remember correctly, it's been a little bit up and down, to be expected, though, coming off the injury here for Gil. Let's talk about just the numbers total last year for Gil. It was 29 starts, a 3.50 ERA, 151 innings, 171 strikeouts, and a 1.19 WHIP. But as I mentioned, the last about 2 months for Gil was an absolute mess. So honestly, I don't expect him to be fantastic, but could he be a K per 9 kind of guy, like a 3.8 ERA? WHIP, honestly, I'd say like a 1.20, if not a little bit higher. That really just depends on Gil, if he can figure it out. If he can capture or recapture some of that magic he had in the first half of last year, that WHIP could be even better than what I'm talking about right now at a 1.20. Because honestly, even through his first 2 starts in the minors, Gil this season has a 4.05 ERA, 6.2 innings pitched, 3 walks, 13 strikeouts, 105 WHIP. So it hasn't been horrible for Gil so far down there in the minors on his rehab assignment and as he's coming back to form. But as I mentioned, it was only 3 1/3 innings in his last one. I'm sure the Yankees are going to want to see him build up to at least 5, because that's the expectation of, it's usually what you're starting pitcher to get to. Like I said, August for Gil does have upside. Don't like him over Bradish. So I'd go Bradish over Heel if I have the choice. But once again, Heel is 45% owned on Yahoo. So go out there and snag them if you need some big strikeouts on your team heading into, the second half's already started. So as we're heading in towards the playoffs. But guys, you know what? I'm calling it there. That's going to be all for today. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. And shout out to our everydayers and new listeners for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. And you know what, guys? After, you make us your first listen, for your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. But guys, until next time, see ya.